And then in the spirit of NPR's Moth podcast, where people just tell a story, they don't write it down, they just tell a story, I would like to tell a quick little story called We Picked Up That Machete in Mexico. It was 1996, and Rick and I were as poor gets. We didn't know that Pemex, the gas station that's nationalized in Mexico, didn't take credit cards. So we got as far south as our cash would take us, which was 200 kilometers. So we stayed for a month in Cuatro Ciénegas near Monclova. It's a hot springs. It's about a mile up. One of the big attractions is that they have a lot of peyote that grows in the mountains, but we didn't know what peyote looked like. But it was good for us because every time there was peyote, there was a little sign with a picture of peyote on it and a little no picking it sign, usually within 5 meters or so of the plants. And one morning at about 9:30 at our campground, a big truck pulled in, probably a Bronco with tinted black windows, and pulled over to one of the concrete picnic tables about as far from me to the bar. And a guy got out of the driver's seat, and he turned around and he looked at us, and he put his hand in his vest pocket, and he stood there, and he waited. A little while later, a BMW with tinted windows pulled in on the other side of the little concrete picnic table. And a very well-dressed guy got out of the driver's seat and stood there with his hand on the inside of his jacket. Then he looked at us at our picnic table. And he looked at his other friend at the picnic table. And then they both opened the doors, and 2 gentlemen in leather jackets got out of their cars, walked over to the picnic table, and sat down. One of them took out a briefcase, put the briefcase on the picnic table. They opened the briefcase and took out a photo album. They put the photo album on the table, and the 2 gentlemen in leather coats looked through the photo album together. They pointed at things, they conversed. They put the photo album back in the briefcase, they closed the briefcase, the gentleman got back into the BMW, his driver got in the BMW, and he drove away. And the 2 gentlemen in the Bronco looked at us. And they got in the Bronco and didn't close the doors. And they drove over to where our picnic table was, under the tree, at 9:30 in the morning. And we looked at them. And the gentleman got out of the back of the car, took out a cooler, walked over to us and said in perfect English, "Would you like a beer?" And Rick said, "Sure." And the gentleman in the front of the car got out of the car, reached in the car, took out a machete, and strolled about 20 feet away and began tossing the machete ever so daintily towards us. He would toss the machete, and it would land in the sand, and he would walk over and pick it up and walk back to where he had started and toss it again, and it would get a little closer to us. Meanwhile, the gentleman in the leather jacket is drinking Tecate with Rick around the picnic table at 9:30 in the morning. And he only has 2 or 3 questions for us. "So, what are you doing here?" "Camping." "So what did you do today?" And we started to get the picture now, and we said, "Nothing." And he said, "So what did you see today?" And we said, "Nothing." And the guy with the machete tossed it, and it landed very close to the picnic table that we were sitting at. And he went over and opened the door for his boss, who got back in the back seat with his cooler, closed the door, got in the front seat, closed the door, and drove away. And left us a lovely machete beside our picnic table. And that's my story.